And sincere apology, we are starting like 40 minutes behind the scheduled time. Thank you very much for joining us this morning for the press conference of Mourning 2024. And so to get us, I would like to invite the of the Community of Practice Against Mass Atrocities, who is actually the body of CSOs and other professionals that organizes this program today and commemorating the National Day of Mourning. And so let me welcome the chair of the steering committee, who will be joining us online, Mr. Ken Henshaw, who is equally the executive director with the people. Mr. Ken, if you can hear me, sir, please you take it off from here with your opening remarks.
Thank you very much, Edosa. Please confirm I'm audible.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I sincerely wish that we were meeting in better circumstances as Nigerians. I wish we were meeting to celebrate and not meeting to mourn. And this morning I was thinking about it, and I think it's actually strange that a country that is not at war officially should have a national day of mourning. It's actually very shocking. But that's the reality in Nigeria. We do need a national day of mourning, and we need a national day of mourning because the things we have been mourning keep happening. Because we have created a system where insecurity, atrocious killings have become the order of the day. So a group of civil society organizations and communities a few years ago came together and said it was important to set up a system that would compel the government, a community of practice that will compel the government to take actions to safeguard the lives of Nigerians. That framework basically told the government that the most important duty it has is to safeguard and protect the lives of Nigerians. And for over 4 years, we have kept doing that. We have kept knocking on that door. We have kept pushing. We have kept insisting that every government in Nigeria has got the responsibility to take action to protect the lives of Nigerians. We hold the National Day of Mourning on the 28th of May every single year to keep that call alive. We not only do that, we document these killings, we document them, we keep count, we keep scores. We remind the people that these are not just numbers, these are not just figures. Because when you hear the government talk about these things, you hear the government say things like 5 killed here or 20 killed there and all that. The lives of Nigerians have been reduced to mere numbers. And we are simply saying, no, these are not just numbers. These are people. These are people with families, with loved ones, and we must call their names and we must remember them. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, violence and atrocious killings have become the order of the day all over the country. And it has not abated even with the change of regime last year. It has instead increased. In the northern part of the country, we see Boko Haram insurgency increasing and claiming the lives of several Nigerians. In fact, that insurgency has taken a new dimension where even Boko Haram members are fighting themselves. The group itself has split into subgroups where they are now battling themselves and basically fighting each other. That is what we see happening in a spate of violence that has increased significantly. And we also see killings on the part of security personnel, where the Boko Haram insurgency is increasingly, gaining enough strength and ability to murder security forces in Nigeria. And we also mourn the death of those security forces. Recently, we saw, as recent as December last year, we saw the Air Force mistakenly bomb a community in Kaduna State, killing almost 100 persons were killed in that incident. A committee was set up to investigate the cause of such, mistake. But I don't think up till now, the findings of that committee have been made known. And we see this happening routinely. Nigerians being killed almost on a daily basis. In the north also, we see increasing cases of violence in communities where whole communities are being sacked all across the northern part of the country. In the north central, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we have seen an increase in the number of abductions and killings also, to the extent that those abductions kidnappings and killings have now entered the federal capital itself. It's happening in Abuja. Once upon a time, Abuja was the heartland. It was the most secure part of the country where things like that could not happen. But it is happening in Abuja at this moment. And it seems that increasingly, those who take the life of other people are becoming bold enough to basically say, yes, we can go anywhere, we can step into any space, and we can commit our atrocities anywhere whatsoever. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we've also seen an increase in farmer-herder clashes. These clashes that continue to sack entire communities. When the farmer-herder clashes happen, the figures are not in ones or twos. The figures are in tens and 20s and hundreds. Nigerians getting killed in mass numbers and getting also buried in mass graves. In the southern part of the country, in the southeast specifically, we see a massive increase in the killings of Nigerians by security operatives in the name of fighting the IPOB insurgency in that place. We also see a massive accumulation of capacity on the part of clandestine elements like the IPOB, the ESN, or the unknown gunmen, whom take it upon themselves to go around bombing police stations, bombing people's houses, and basically putting pressure on indigenous communities all around the South, is insisting on things like sit at home and no election in Biafra land. And we have seen hundreds of Nigerians getting killed in those circumstances. It's important to also note that recently, Global Rights released a report on cases of atrocities that happened in Nigeria, in the Southwest and the Southeast during the 2023 elections. And we saw several cases of killings around those elections, especially in the southeastern part of the country. In the South-South, where I currently live, we have seen an increase in vigilante killings, where people, where communities came together and created vigilantes, and those vigilantes have now become, a main driver of atrocious killings, where they basically take the laws onto themselves and carry out killings of people without any kind of abatement. We've also seen a rise in militancy, especially around oil extraction facilities all over the Niger Delta region. We also see extrajudicial killings, an increase in extrajudicial killings by the police, by the army, and other security forces. And it seems, ladies and gentlemen, that the security forces in this country, at least in the South, have not learned from the EndSARS experience. They have gone back to the same de facto mindset where it is considered normal to kill Nigerians and kill them in their numbers. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, 2024 commemoration of the National Day of Mourning is a particularly important one. Particularly important because we have a government that promised to fight insecurity about to announce its 1 year in office. But that government has failed to keep the most fundamental promise of safeguarding the lives of Nigerians. Just like the previous regimes, this government has continued to also fail in doing so. And I think it's critical and important for us to call the attention of this government to this responsibility, this singular responsibility. And today we say to the government, you have got a job to do. And that job is to safeguard the lives of Nigerians. But the fact is that Nigerians have already died. You also have the duty and the responsibility of seeking accountability for those people who have died already. We demand specifically that the government must investigate every single case of atrocious killing that's happened in this country. The people that died are persons. They have loved ones, they have family members, they have brothers, they have sisters, they have people who mourn for them. They have people who demand closure. They have people who still think about them. For a government that claims to love its people, this is the least it can do. Demand that accountability is done. Demand that people are held accountable for those killings. Today, we remember them. Today, we call their names. Today, we say that they are not just numbers. They are people. They are our countrymen. They are patriots. They are brothers. They are sisters. At this point, I thank you so much for attending this press conference. And I call on Mr. Idosa to declare a period of silence in memory of those Nigerians who have lost their lives in the last 365 days. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. So as Mr. Ken has requested, I will kindly ask all of us to rise and observe a minute of silence in memory of our fellow Nigerians whose lives have been cut short, not because they wanted to die at this time, but because we have all collectively freed them as a country. May their soul find peace. Amen. Thank you very much. You may have your seat. Ladies and gentlemen, as we remember those whose lives have been cut short in the last 1 year due to these mass atrocities, but there are still some of them among us who, by sheer providence, were able to survive some of these incidents that took the lives of others. And so we have a few of them with us who would like to share their experience with us. We call it the survivor stories. And so in the next 7-8 minutes, I would like to invite you to join and listen to the survivors, some of the survivors of mass atrocities across Nigeria.
My name is Elizabeth Alum from Eza Effium. I ran out due to community crisis in my village. In my village, lots of properties were destroyed. We escaped death by whiskers. I escaped with nothing on me. I had nothing on me. It is by God's grace and people's support that we are still surviving today. People's properties were destroyed. I just had a piece of wrapper tied to my chest as I ran out that day. My business store was destroyed and all the items I was selling, all got burnt. I used to sell wares, male and female. None was spared, all destroyed.
Daga kasan Marte. Banda mun tashi gaskiya mun sha wahala sosai, sun kore mu har ba riga muka fita. Yaran mu ma har kusan kwana 2 tukuna muka haɗu da su. Amma cikin kwanan nan alhamdulillah mun samu sauki kaɗan, mun zo nan mun samu an mana taimako kaɗan, alhamdulillah mun gode ma Allah. Amma har yanzu kan abun ranmu kan har yanzu mu samu wahala kan har yanzu akwai har akwai yayana ma wanda suka kashe. Abin da suka yi mana har abin ba za mu taɓa ya abin nan mantawa ba, har mu gama rayuwarmu ba za mu manta ba. Gaskiya har yayanmu ma sun kashe mana a gabanmu, kuma mutum wai bai kalla ba, mutum ma zai haɗa kai shi.
My name is Amutosho Peter. I'm from Ifo Osun State, or local government. So I'm a mobile technician. So this my shop here. It was burned down during a war that occurred between two towns, Ifon and Ilebu. So everything in the shop was destroyed. So how this incident happened? So I went home in the evening. That's evening. So when I got home in the middle of the night, in the midnight, so I was informed that my shop is being burned. So in the morning I have to quickly wake up and go check. So when I get there, they are already shooting anyone that is disturbing them. So no one could even get to the shop to know what's happening. So as everything settled, so we had to check everything and we found out everything was burnt. Everything was burnt. So
Humble Sunday Wori. My name is Sunday Wori, businessman popularly called Trailer. As a result of the crisis, I lost a lot of my properties. I lost my house. I lost my car. Everything on me. I was evacuating people with my vehicle to save their lives, such that I never rescued anything from my own house. Many people died, including those that were buried alive. The crisis is still ongoing since 2021. Due to this conflict, people are dying of hunger as people can't go to their farms again. And vehicles that used to come to buy and convey goods from Effium to other parts of the country can't come again, and people are suffering, with many displaced and sleeping in open places. The internally displaced persons have no places to stay, talk more of food to eat.
Thank you very much. As Mr. Henshaw said earlier, we had wished we are meeting today to celebrate, but it's actually a day of mourning. And so, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be presenting the press statements by the Committee of Practice Against Mass Atrocities in Nigeria, and we will have the Executive Director of the Cedar Seed Foundation, Lois Ausa, begin the reading of the statements.
Thank you very much, Edosa. Thank you, Global Rights, for organizing this. My name is Lois Auta, as he rightly introduced me. Okay. Press statement for immediate release today, 28 May 2024. This is the 7th National Day of Mourning for victims of mass atrocities. The account for the missing and the dead, and ensure justice for mass atrocities. And there's a quote that says, The security and welfare of the people shall be the primary purpose of the government. Section 14, subsection 2. Should I continue? Section 40, subsection 2B, CFRN 1999, as amended. We, the undesigned civil society organizations, in commemoration of the 2024 National Day of Mourning, reiterate our call to the government under the direction of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to fulfill its and well-being of the Nigerian people, account for the missing and the dead, and ensure justice for the various forms of mass atrocities across the country. The National Day of Violent Killings is an annual citizen-led initiative that recognizes that victims are more than just numbers. Identities must not be forgotten, whose stories must be told, and for whom justice must prevail. The National Day of Mourning is further aimed at rekindling our sense of solidarity and nationhood by reminding us that we are in this together and that the office of the citizen is the most powerful office that can be occupied in Nigeria. The intractable insecurity in Nigeria has earned it a place as one of the most insecure countries in the world. Nigeria ranked 144 out of 163 countries on the Global Peace Index in 2024, sandwiched between countries in active warfare, and 5th on the Global Conflict Index, ranking as extremely vulnerable to conflict. Since the commemoration of the last National Day of Mourning, 2023, on May 28, 2023, and President Tinubu's first year in office, our records show that at least 116 people were killed and at least 430 in incidents of mass atrocities across the country. This number for the regular crimes of armed robbery and other forms of crimes within that range. These incidents of violence have reduced the citizens' right to life and dignity guaranteed under sections 33 and 34 of the 99 Constitution of Nigeria as amended to a mere inscription. The frequency of these atrocities have kept Nigerians in a state of perpetual fear and uncertainty, and is impacting social cohesion, the economy, and education across the country. Well, no region of the country has been spared in the past year. The North Central region has accounted for the highest number of fatalities from mass atrocities, with at least 1,600 lives claimed in terror pillages, communal clashes, and herdsmen attacks. The North Central was closely followed by the Northwest, with at least 1,136 killed, mainly in terror villages. Particularly hard hit were communities like Maradun local government in Zamfara state, which endured at least 5 separate incidents of terror villages in 2023, a series of attacks that claimed the lives of at least 118 people. At least 904 were killed in the Northeast in the past year. Boko Haram, ISWAP activities still account for the highest number of atrocious killings in the Northeast, particularly in Borno State, with pockets of incidents in Yobe and Adamawa states. We also noted an upsurge in insurgent group clashes. For example, at least 82 Boko Haram insurgents were killed in an inter-insurgent group clash in the Kukawa local government area of Borno State. The Southeast recorded the highest number of killings in the southern part of the country, with at least 344 people killed. And most of these killings occurred in Imo and Anambra states. As reported in previous years, most of the killings were due to secessionist activities in the region. Cult groups, communal clashes, and pockets of banditry attacks continue to cost lives in the South-South region, where at least 272 people were killed. In the Southwest, at least 160 people were killed due to cult clashes, herdsmen militia, and other isolated attacks. We noted that the sustained trend of brazen killings, abductions, and pillages across the country reflects the impugnacious confidence of armed groups whose acts of violence are rewarded with ransom payments, control over pillaged communities, and tax extorted from communities in exchange for peace. We are perplexed that while the government successfully tracked and froze the bank account of EndSARS protesters, it is unable to trace and quash kidnapping and ransom rings across the country using the same technology. In addition to attacks from armed groups, extrajudicial killings by state security actors have also continued, with at least 274 people extrajudicial killed by security personnel. We note in particular that 160 people were killed in 2 incidents of accidental airstrikes in Kaduna and Zamfara states, and no one has been held accountable. State security personnel have also continued to fall victim to the violence, with at least 262 security personnel killed in active duty across the country in the past year. These numbers include 110 military and 126 police officers. The unmitigated levels of insecurity across the nation have continued to impact not only the dead. All Nigerians suffer the manifested consequences of food insecurity and economic hardships resulting from hindrances imposed by perennial insecurity. We also note its continued effect on the nation's educational sector. At least 406 of the abductees within the period were students. We note with particular sadness that Nigeria continues to boast of having the most out-of-school children in the world. As we commemorate this year's National Day of Mourning, #NDOM 2024 or NDOM 2024, we amplify Nigerians' demands that the government fulfill its constitutional obligation to ensure the security and well-being of every Nigerian.
Ladies and gentlemen, our demands are as follows. One, that the government fulfill its constitutional obligations under Section 14(2)(b) of the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended. The provision of that section says that the welfare and the security of every Nigerian citizen is the primary responsibility of government. Our second demand is that the government address the gaping inequalities, the gaping socioeconomic inequalities that are exacerbating violent crimes across the country. In particular, the government should prioritize providing quality education for all, infrastructure for unserved communities, and opportunity leverages for the indigent and marginalized. Our third demand is that the government acts humanely towards internally displaced people across the country and communities affected by insecurities as stipulated in Section 17 of the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Our fourth demand is that the government prioritize providing better welfare services, including psychosocial support for our gallant security personnel who daily deal with the trauma of being on the front lines. 5, that the government should track the financial inflow of ransom and communal extortions to identify and bring to book terrorists and terror merchants currently pillaging Nigeria. Finally, that the government investigates, arrests, and prosecutes all perpetrators of these violent crimes, including those perpetrated during the 2023 general elections.
On this occasion of this year's National Day of Mourning, we commiserate and stand with Nigerians who have lost loved ones and property to mass atrocities and demand justice for the dead, the displaced, and the safe return of all abducted persons. As a coalition of organized civil society groups across Nigeria, we pledge to continue to amplify citizens' voices and demand accountability from the government. God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Thank you very much. Already undersigned? Thank you very much. That's
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. We will take a few remarks from other civil society groups in the room before we throw up the floor for questions. So I will want to bring in the chair of the Action Group on Civil Society Organizations in Nigeria, who is equally the executive director of CISLAC, Mr. Rafajani Awamusa, who is joining us online. Ogaraf, can you hear me, sir?
Yes. Thank you very much and good morning, all. My apologies that I am not here physically with you. I'm far away, but my spirit is definitely with you. First and foremost, let me also thank Global Rights for reminding the nation about the kind of atrocities that is going on in the country, which unfortunately our leaders appears to be comfortable with it. It is only in Nigeria that you will hear 100 people die and nothing happened. sometimes not even a statement coming from the authority. It shows that what some of our political elite are interested is just to grab power for their self-aggrandizement. But the country cannot sustain and cannot continue to witness these mass atrocities of killing. The unfortunate thing is that even the security agents, are not also, spared from this unwarranted killing. You see that our soldier, our policemen are being killed. And the main reason why insecurity and this kind of atrocities are continuing to happen in the country is because of, refusal of government to carry out security sector reform. We have been advocating for the government to take necessary action to address the gaps and the challenges that we have within our security architecture, because there's no way people will be committing this mass killing and you cannot identify them, you cannot arrest them, you cannot do anything. In fact, you are actually promoting more killing to happen when this kind of killings happens and you did not do any thing about it. So we cannot continue to sacrifice the lives of Nigerians for simply because of the lapses or because of the failure of our government that is supposed to be protecting the lives and properties of Nigerians. Secondly, the corruption in the security sector is also amplifying this kind of mass atrocities that is going on, because some of the people in power are actually happy that insecurity continues because it is an avenue for them to make money, blood money, with the lives of innocent Nigerians, because they believe that that is an opportunity for them to amass wealth. But then, what is the benefit of amassing wealth when your nation is bleeding? The third, problem associated with mass atrocities in Nigeria, it encourages impunity. When people, especially non-state actors, even state actors, when they commit these kind of atrocities, they get away with it without anybody calling them to account for it. So accountability in the security sector, in the mass atrocities like this, continue to exacerbate the kind of killings we are seeing in this country. A situation whereby the whole community will be bombed, bombed, and not a single investigative report, no compensation, no rehabilitation is carried out in communities. It shows that some people are deliberately and consciously continue to create this condition to happen. So, ladies and gentlemen, this statement is very clear. We cannot afford to allow the lives of Nigerians being wasted. In other countries, even if it is one person that is killed, government will take action. But in the case of Nigeria, hundreds of people will be killed, thousands of people will be killed, and nothing will happen. And even the government will move on, and life goes on. So we cannot, in all honesty, expect even international investors to come to Nigeria. As a matter of fact, Nigerian businesses are collapsing because of the level of insecurity and because of the atrocities and killings that is going on in the country. No investor is going to come to Nigeria, and that is one of the consequences of why we are actually even telling the president and the government to take necessary action to protect the lives of Nigerians and even those who are living in Nigeria. Because if you don't do that, nobody is going to come to even invest in Nigeria. So, ladies and gentlemen, this intervention by Global Right and other civil society organizations, it is clearly, is an indication that we as citizens, we are responsible of at least creating the awareness. Even if government pretend not to know what is going on, we are reminding them that Nigerians are being killed, and even the police, the army, and other security agents are equally being involved. Lastly, Nigerian security agents, they are already overwhelmed. We do not see reason why they want to create additional political insecurity in the country. The case in Kano is a very, very clear testimony. The federal government want to go and create artificial problems where we have numerous, security challenges. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have the responsibility to continue to demand for accountability on the mass atrocities and murder and killings that is going on in this country. And we call for its immediate end. And anybody that is involved, whether state or non-state actors, must be investigated and appropriate sanction and penalty be applied to avoid escalation of this kind of atrocities. We cannot continue to lose our valuable lives, in the hands of wicked, irresponsible persons in this country. Once again, thank you, and I hope that we all, as Nigerians, will wake up. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, just to re-echo the fact that this statement is signed by over 80 civil society organizations in Nigeria, including 21st Century Community Empowerment for Youth and Women Initiative, Accountability Lab, Ask Nigeria, Advocacy Center for Development, Africa Center for Media and Information Literacy, African Law Foundation, Alliances for Africa, Amnesty International Nigeria, Baobab for Women's Human Rights, Bauchi Human Rights Network, BENDEF, Procodeb, Budget, and the rest of them. So when you get the statement, you will see all the organizations listed here that have signed the statement. I will give room again as well to other CSO in the room to give their own, add their own comment to the statement that have been read. Mr. Frank Tetian.
All right, thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, and on behalf of every Nigerian who is suffering from this irresponsibility of the past government of President Muhammadu Buhari and the worst form of irresponsibility of the current government of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, that is delighting in awarding contracts that are disconnected from human beings, that take delight in disregarding the fact that any Nigerian can die, and refailing to also recognize that as if it took over power as a form of state capture, simply to allot resources to themselves and to their friends, and forgetting that the primary responsibility of governance, of government, is to protect the Nigerian people. If nobody has told President Tinubu that he is failing at this point, at the celebration of his 1-year anniversary in government, we, the collective civil society organizations of Nigeria, are telling him that he has not only failed, he has exhibited crass irresponsibility. And is it because that we run a presidential federalist system of government where you are guaranteed 4 years? So when you do anything you can do to capture that power and you are sworn in as president, you care less about your responsibility? If nobody can tell him, we, the third sector of representing the Nigerian people, are telling him that we are not satisfied, we are not deceived by the antics of governance, by the sweet talk of those who run government for themselves, forgetting the principal and primary responsibility of governance. Nigerians are suffering. There's hardly any family that has not been touched by this level of insecurity. Let me tell you something. If it is not because of what my senior brother Ramsanjani said, that insecurity is benefiting those who are paid salary as soldiers, as members of the armed forces. If not, why would it endure for that long? What does it take for an organized army that has all the money that it requires to buy all the weapons, that it requires to fight a group of persons who gather, who are reckless, who are not trained? They enjoy it. They enjoy the fat the defense budget, and without a commensurate success. They enjoy the fact that Nigeria is now in this state that is on its knees. And we note that it appears that even the past and present president are afraid of these armed forces. The president is unable to look them in the eye and say, Commander, the Chief of Defense Staff, you are failing. Chief of Army Staff, you are failing. The Chief of Air Staff, Chief of Naval Staff, Inspector General of Police, you are all
comrade. Comrade, we need to move on. We need to move on and allow other civil society leaders to speak, please.
Well, I am here to express on behalf of my civil society that the federal government, as presently constituted and run under President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, is failing in its responsibility to protect the life and property of the Nigerian people. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Practice. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Okay. Any other one in the room that want to express their thoughts? Okay. Any foundation?
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and gentlemen of the press. Bernard, also representing the civil society organizations here. Just to say that I think the costs and benefits of crime here is not commensurate, in the sense that over the years, we have tended to actually appreciate the cost of crimes and these atrocities committed. And that's why it's very, very beneficial to those committing them. Because we cannot factor in why nearly 6 months or over 6 months now going down the drain, you had a lot of persons, civilians, members of our families being bombed by an airstrike. And we cannot seem to have gotten any conclusive statement from our military. And that is not acceptable. It shows that that's the highest level of irresponsibility, because you cannot ascertain that these persons have families, their loved ones, their breadwinners among these people that have been bombed. And yet, more than 6 months down the line, we have nothing to say about that. The rains are here again. And we know what happens in this part of the country, especially the North Central, when the rains come. There's struggle for land, and a lot of atrocities are being committed. Just last week, over 40 persons were killed in Riom, in Jos Plateau State, and nothing seemed to happen. And we will keep hearing this over and over again because of the struggle for the natural resources. We have the global meltdown, the rains are not coming as it used to. And so what is the government doing about this? We have the government of Bola Tinubu saying that you want his ministers to score themselves. I don't think that is possible. You give a student an exam and you tell him to score himself. What do you think he's going to score himself? Let Nigeria score the ministers. Let us tell them that you have failed in your responsibility and you have failed as the responsibility given to you as ministers, and you need to resign. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bernard. Okay, at this point, ladies and gentlemen, we are wasting against time. And so, if you recall at the beginning when Lois was reading the statement, she did refer to the fact that in the last 1 year, at least 4,416 people have been killed as a result of mass atrocities. And so we will not be able to do a roll call for the number of these persons, but I will want to, at this point, invite the Executive Director of Global Rights, Abiodun Bayero, to do a victims memorial roll call and mention some of these names that time will allow us to mention. Abi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Just a second. So I will be reading out, and we will be observing silence as I read out the names of some victims from states across the country. But let me first start by reading, and these are only representative of some of the victims that we have lost across Nigeria. Let me start first with some of our service personnel. Lieutenant Sam Oladapo, Sergeant Ilyasu Inusa, Sergeant Tahiru Mohammed. From Abia State, Stanley Ejike, Samuel Aronsi Eze, Mr. Linus, Obina Ondukwe. From Adamawa, Reverend Mike Uchigbo, Mr. Moses John, Ali Dendam, Yauba Usman. From Akwa Ibom, Mrs. Uduakapan, Justice Joy Uwana, Oyebo Okoye, Kenechukwu Okeke Anambra, Jude Ebenza, Obina Maduka, Honorable Ike Okolo, Igwechukwu Charles Igweka, Mr. Alexandra Nwosu, Reverend Stanilus Mbamara, Mr. Joe Mohele, Chijoke Obiabo, from Bauchi, Alhaji Aruna Dan Osi, Idris Mai Nwagwa, Yao Gandu Malia, Daniel Yahaya, from Bauchi, Alhaji Muhammad Kazami, Alhaji Hussein Saleh, Mai Nwagwa Ali, Malam Dan Aliyo, from Bayelsa, Ayarite Moses, Chief Bob Wilson, Elo Loki, Ebiotimi Freeborn, George Sibo, from Benue, Mr. Muhammad Abubakar, Usman Ochowechi, Timothy Adzu, Reverend Gadwe Katyayo, Simon Okwe, Michael Ada, Mr. Nathaniel Ucheche, Timothy Mbawa, Sunday Igbeya, Oduase Asema, Akombo Yeva, Sunday Semaka, Alois Ayua, Sunday Ingwe, Timothy Mbawa, Asema Adowase, Matthew Abo, Eloshima Eruka, William Otim Yeoba, John Adiku, Mrs. Amina Audu, Mrs. Amina Audu, Adamu Sadu, Mrs. Ama Bua, Bornu, Adamu Sadu, Bornu, from Cross River State, Gertrude Nja, Prince Agbo Oyi, Imojara Godwin Imojara, Polycarp Essien, Patrick Egaga, Etienne Morris Edets, Akbang Ayembam, Dr. Uyi, from Delta State, Louis Sunday Agboma, Chief Okodili Obi, Sylvester Egboforbo, Reverend Father Chochos Carver, Reverend Father Raphael Ogiba, Reverend Father Ujaya Matthew, Sergeant Jebu, Asore Frank, Reverend Father Agbada Mashi Emmanuel, Sunday Okoebo from Ebonyi, Charles Nwankwo, Monday Udoko, Eze Egboko Ada, Awa, Ogbonaya Ugu, Emmanuel Igwe, Aja Chibuzo, from Edo State, Precious Nyawongo, Festus Edugwale, Father Charles Igwe, Bright Oviawe, Reverend Father Michael in Ekiti State, Reverend Father Michael Olofiade, Paul Omotosho, Anike in Enugu, Anike Nwaobu, Emma Obu, Oyibo Chukwu, Daughter Idris, Dons Ude, Danjuma Joseph, Abu Alemaje, Udeme Udomeng, Reverend Father Malicious Okide, Mr. Hilary Uche. From the Federal Capital Territory, Benjamin Ogundare, Isiaka Dogara, Fatima Shuaibu, Alhaji Yakubu Ayuba, David Uche, Ifechukwu Martin, Gloria Mba, Ikenga Ugochinyere, Christian Ihim, Chindere Obialo, Chris Umozo, Isaac Wakili, Uwanemeka Uboma, Augustine Ukegbu, Mrs. Chiaka Unwagu, Chief Monday Eke, Honorable Chinedu Elialim, Reverend Father Maduka, Chief Udoku, Reverend Father Matthias, Peter Ebi, Reverend Father Matthias Okpara, Eze James Anamdi, Richard Duru, Eze Ocholo, Linus Omo, Kingsley Eze, Uchena Newman, Cosmo Ugo, from Jigawa, Hilaru Lafka, Abdullahi Ishaku, Farouk Abdullahi, Ibrahim Abdullahi, Chief Joshua Amadu, Callistus Eze, Kaduna Callistus Eze, Beneficia Haruna, Alihu Shitu, Muhammad Shitu, Adamu Shuaibu, Musa Shuaibu, Abubakar Shuaibu, Ibrahim Haruna, Anas Bolonlahi, Harisu Lemu, Abubakar Dankebiu, Haruna Maizabura, Malam Yakubu Bugwai, Kaku Ibrahim Yasaka, Yashua Peter, Joshua Peter, Kubai Adamu, Judith Adamu, Abigail Adamu, Gabriel Adamu, Dennis Joseph, Grace Beatrice, Adamu Ibrahim, Kuka Yuri, Abuki Dogo, Charles Salias, Grace Silas, Mr. Sunday Ako, Mustafa Adamu, Malam Mukhtar, Reverend Mako Maraya, Stephen Ibrahim, Nathan Patrick, Dahiru Abba, Nasiru Nia, Ikano, Alima Kabiru, Kabiru Yahaya, Katsina Ibrahim Abdullahi, Rabilu Tuko, Saidu Maikian, Dagurwa, Sayudi Maitamba, Chief Dave from Kogi State, Chief Debbie Obadofin, Tani Mukaka, Shadrach Obi Beni, Alpha Salusi Mejebi, Joseph Magbaidu, from Kwara, Usman Baba, Goodluck Ogundare, Janet Ogundare, Mr. Rotimi Oyedepo, Raphael Adewuye, Semiat Mukaila, Abdullahi Awe, Abdurrashid Alafara, Mr. Lawal Soliu, Mr. David Adefikoya, Mrs. Alawale, Jimo Subeiru, Lagos, Christian Ukanda, Gafar Yusuf, Chindalu Umadi, Udeba David, Sulaiman Lawal, Fawikpe Thomas, Inspector Yusuf Jafaru, Jacob from Nasarawa, Jacob Agada, Professor Onye Gweyewado, Mr. Daniel Ogwashi, Freedom Luka, Dr. Stephen Angbas, from Niger, Isaac Achi, Saleh Alawa, Saleh Yakubu, Matamboda, Alaji Abu, Saidu Al-Hassan, Niger, Malam Usman Sarki, from Ogun State, Kehinde Fatinloye, Amos Chukwuka, Umaru Aliyu, Ogunride Saheed, Jacob Mangbola, Dr. Ayodele Ajayi, Sheyi Oduyiga, Mr. Taiwo Oyekomi, Ayomide Ogunbiade, Akinola Akinubinu, Akinlabi Akinnaso, Samuel Oladotun, Fashola Tobiloba, Olayinka Kayode, Osun State Nuruddin Quadri, Gbenga Okotore, Ibrahim Jubril, Muhammad Jubril, Ibrahim Kudus, Oyo State, Mr. Dejo Adejuwon, Miss Olaitan Gbenle, is Royal from Plateau State is Royal Highness Sunday Dajab, John Michael, Nuhu Nyango, Adam Ahmad, Adam Hamad, Musa Ibrahim, Wang Danladi, Joshua Deme, Usman Umaru, Adamu Gadbo, Ngwom Haudu, Usman Umaru, Wadam Kam, Waram Ismail, Muhammadu Tuka, from River State, Chukwudi Ogbona, Amadi Osarunu, Chimaneke Nebu, Ebenezer Matthew, Mrs. Onye Ugba, Bako Agbazem, John Okon, Charles Osu, Eje Dawakwo, from Sokoto State, Lance Corporal Nwobodo, Chinonso Muhammad, Inspector Adike Austin in Taraba State, Uzo James, Boyi Manga, Adamu Takalafia, Alhaji Muhammad Abubakar from Zamfara State, Kazim Rahim, Aminu Gangede, Abdurrahman Hassan, Abubakar Bungudu, Abubakar Ubar, Magaji Makau, Malam Abdullahi, Magaji Sehidu. These are some of the victims, representing some of the victims of mass atrocities across Nigeria. And I will read a part of the statement that had been left out, that as we commemorate this year's National Day of Mourning, we amplify Nigerians' demand that government fulfill its constitutional obligation to ensure that security and well-being of all Nigerians. You have failed us, and we're deeply dissatisfied with the state of affairs in our nations. Nigerians deserve better. We further warn the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, President Bola Tinubu, the security chiefs, and our representatives at the National Assembly that their continued failure to fulfill their constitutional duty will result in our passing a loud and consequential vote of no confidence in them. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Abby. Just to quickly make a quick clarification, as was brought to my notice just now. The lists that Abby read was, as I said, was a list of those that were killed. Well, actually, most of them were killed, but there were some that were actually adopted or adoptees inside among the lists of the names that she read. For example, Professor Ginwado, who was actually adopted and then later released after so much horrors in the hands of the abductors. And same goes for Ikenga going from Imo as well. So thank you very much. At this time, as we conclude this section, we will throw the floor open. If there is still any pending questions, we'll just take 2 or 3 questions if there is any, as we begin to draw the press conference to a close. Is there any question from the media or anyone in the room? Is there any question online as well? Can you please check the chat? Okay, there is somebody in the room. He said he's an observer today, but as we end, I would like to pass the mic to him to do like a closing for us today as we conclude this section today. Thank you very much, sir. So ladies and gentlemen, I would like to invite my senior boss to give us the closing remark. The chair of the Board of Global Rights, Professor J.D. Ondikalu.
Sorry, guys. Good morning. I'm actually a visitor here, and I'm honestly observing. I'm not. I'm a little groggy, but it's a day for serious things, really. And I want to thank my colleagues. Lois, it's good to see you. Frank, spitting fire as always. And all the bearded ones and the clean-shaven ones. Thank you very much for coming. This is the 7th year of observing the National Day of Mourning. And the idea really was that we'll be able to bring it to the attention of government, what's happening, in the hope that they will do something. And when the Jonathan administration was in power, they were criticized, and rightfully so, for casualizing the effects of casualizing the killings, mass killings of Nigerians. And they were criticized by exactly the same people who are in power now. And we saw in, was it Katsina or Zamfara earlier this week, 2-3 days ago, Nigerians killed in vast numbers and nothing heard from government, not even an acknowledgement for one moment. And all over the country, people are suffering, whether it's in the Middle Belt or the Northwest or the Northeast, and there does not appear to be any strategy in place for addressing this. Instead, what do we see? We don't have helicopter gunships to fight insurgency, but we have helicopters to go and pick up journalists from Lagos and bring them to Abuja, where they get disappeared and abducted from Lagos, disappeared in Abuja. We don't have enough soldiers to protect the country. But what do we have? We have soldiers deployed to Kano to address what is essentially a local chieftaincy dispute within the same family, amongst cousins and in-laws. We don't have state security assets or police assets to protect the country, but we have them to protect people who don't hold public office and their mistresses. As a result, citizens are unprotected, communities are unprotected, and atrocities are skyrocketing rather than being reduced. And that really is the challenge here. The challenge is not necessarily that Nigerians are being killed, as bad as that is. It is that government does not care. It is that government does not care, and government misallocates the resources supposed to enable the protection of Nigerians and of our communities. So our lives don't matter. And why is it that our lives don't matter? And if you read the statement, it talks about the office of the citizen. It is because they no longer need citizens to get into office. They don't need your votes. They write results with INEC and pay judges to certify the results. That is the problem. Until your results, until your thumbs matter, until our thumbs matter, this is going to continue to happen. Because if citizens' votes matter and citizens are being killed, the politicians will protect their votes. Let me repeat myself. If citizens' votes matter and you're killing citizens, it means you're killing the votes. Therefore, politicians who need votes will do what? Protect their votes. But at the moment, they're protecting the judges because those are the people who send them into office. They are giving judges 800% salary increase. How much are you getting? How much are the workers getting? How much are they? How much is minimum wage? That is where the meat of this issue is. And so let's remember the people who have been killed, but let's not forget that this really is about what kind of country we desire to have. And when they tell you it is about those people against those other people, remind them, across our country, wherever you come from, none of us matters anymore. And if we can take that home, take home that message of making the citizen matter, making the citizens' vote worth it, it may well be possible to remind the politicians that actually the reason they are there is to protect each and every one of us and the things that matter to us as citizens. And let me just end on that note and thank you once again for waking up this morning to this event. I'd like to hope that next year we would not have a National Day of Mourning. The likelihood, however, is that we are going to have it. My hope is that when we do, we can count some increments of progress. My hope is that we can count on government that is a little more responsible and citizens that count for a little more than just numbers. Thank you once again for coming. And to Edosa and the team, Alois, thank you very much for providing leadership for this.
Thank you very much, Professor Chidi Odekalu. Ladies and gentlemen, I will call on all of us to rise up as we take the second standard of the Nigerian national anthem as our prayer for Nigeria as we close this morning. O God of creation, direct our noble cause, guide our leaders right, help our youth the truth to know, love and honesty to go,
and living just and true. Great lofty heights attain to build a nation where peace and justice shall reign.
Amen. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Please do have a good day.